Hi, I'm Tom from Computer World. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking to you about using disaster recovery as a service using iLand's secure cloud platform. And your current DR plan may be simply to rely on your backups to restore from and order a pizza because it's going to be a long night. And in the worst case scenario, get in touch with a partner like ourselves and try to get some new hardware on site as quickly as possible, which could result in days or even weeks of downtime. Or it might be that you have a second data center on site on another location. Perhaps it's got a duplicate of your production environment set up, or maybe it's the kit you replaced at your last refresh and you moved it from production into DR, which is a good position to be in. But that, of course, comes with a cost. It's something you need to manage, so you need to refresh. You need to make sure the backup generator has diesel and is going to start reliably, all that sort of stuff. So what DR as a service offers is a very straightforward way to provide your business with a level of protection for your IT systems in the case of a disaster by enabling a full recovery in the cloud. We partner with iLand for this service. They have data centers all around the world. They've got two in the UK, in London and Manchester, and their data centers are state of the art, super fast internet links, 24/7 security, advanced fire suppression, the sort of data centers that nerds like us dream of having. And they've been doing this for over a decade, so we know what they're doing. The cloud platform runs on VMware, and you have the option of using Veeam or Zerto as your backup replication. We're going to be focusing today on Veeam, and we're going to have a short 30-minute demo. I'm going to show you how to set up the replication for a virtual machine. Then we're going to recover it to the cloud, show you how easy that is, and then we'll also recover back to the primary site. Okay, so here we have our demo environment, and the first thing we're going to look at is the connection from Veeam Backup and Replication to iLand's cloud. So in the Replicate Backup and Replication console, if we take a look here on the left-hand side under Backup Infrastructure, and then under Service Providers, we can see we've got this connection here, and if we have a look under the properties of that, so this is quite simply the DNS name for the iLand cloud. We're leaving this box ticked so that the backup and replication installation on this server can be managed by the service provider, so it can be managed by the iLand cloud console, which we'll look at in a bit. Enter some credentials, which will be provided to you when you sign up. Click apply, and it's as simple as that. So all you need is the URL and the credentials, and then your local Veeam backup and replication server is now connected to the iLand cloud. We've also got the network extension in here. So the network extension is an appliance from Veeam called the Network Extension Appliance, or NEA, that allows for Veeam to automatically establish layer 2 connectivity between source and target sites with resources during a partial failover. And we'll go through that in the demo in a bit. So this screen allows us to see the settings of that, and we can also go in there and look at that in some more detail. So click apply, and then that saves those settings and the connection is complete. Now we're going to take a look at the replication job that we've got configured. So we'll have a look under the settings here. Give it a name and description. Got a couple of advanced options here as well. So if you're on a low bandwidth link, then you can seed your replicas before you start the regular schedule, so you don't have any problems with always playing catch up. And also network remapping, so that you can re-IP your virtual machines when you move them to the cloud environment. Simply select the virtual machines that you want to replicate as part of this job. In this environment, we've got a couple of Linux machines and a Windows server. And then our destination is the iLand cloud setup that we configured in the last step. On the network, we have the source network and the target network, so it knows how to re-IP those virtual machines. Under job settings, we have the repository for the replica and also replica settings, the name suffix, and also the restore points to keep. So although you're doing a replica, you can also have multiple restore points as part of that job. Then we've got some data transfer options. Now for most customers, this would just be left as the default. But if you're using a proxy or perhaps a WAN accelerator, then this can be configured on this screen. You can configure guest processing. So if you've got, you need application aware QSing, perhaps a SQL database, something like that, that can all be configured under here, just as normal as you would in any other Veeam job. And then finally, we set up a schedule, so we can set this to run automatically, daily, monthly, however your business is required. Check through on the summary and then just click finish. Now that we have the replication job set up, and I ran this about an hour ago, so we're up to date, we can have a look here under the replicas and we can see those 3 virtual machines, the replicas are ready in the cloud. And we're also going to look at the failover plan that we've configured. Come again into the settings for this one. So a name and description. And then we can select the virtual machines that we want in our failover plan. And we can set a delay and an order. So perhaps you've got an application that has some dependencies where you need the database to start up before the front end, or quite common where you want a domain controller to start up before the rest of your virtual machines come online. This is where you can configure all of that. So you can change the order, and you can set the delay. We can add another virtual machine in there. So we'll select the Windows box. And perhaps we want to set that with a delay of 45 seconds. And then you can tailor that to your needs to make sure that when your virtual machines do start back up from scratch in the cloud environment, that everything's going to come on in the right order and at the right time. Now we've configured what we need to on the Veeam side of things, we're going to take a look at the iLand console, which is completely web-based. And as we log in here, the first thing we see is the dashboard. So this gives us information about our consumption. So we can very easily, straight after logging in, see the CPU, the RAM, the storage consumption, as well as the network bandwidth. And then from here on the top tab, if we have a look under networking, we're introduced to the Edge Gateway for the first time. So the Edge Gateway is a VMware-based firewall appliance, part of the NSX suite. And this is what's going to give us the connection between the cloud and your local site for when you actually need to access those virtual machines because you've brought them up in the cloud. It's also where we'll be able to configure your firewall rules, your NAT settings, DHCP, routing, layer 2 VPN, certificates, all of that stuff that's going to get you connected from your production environment, from your production site, to your resources that you're hosting in iLand's secure cloud. We can also have a look at the security tab here. And this is going to give us information about vulnerabilities. So it's doing a vulnerability scan, it's doing malware and virus scanning. You've got options for VM encryption, log inspection, all your firewall information. One of the quite interesting things that this offers is that you can do this vulnerability and malware and virus scanning, is that when you actually fail over your virtual machines, even just as a test, you can run this vulnerability scan against them, and it might actually highlight some issues that you have with your production workloads that you weren't aware of at this point. And of course, we can have a look at billing as well. So as a customer, one of the things you'll be really interested in knowing when you're using a pay-for service like this is keeping on top of how much your monthly spend is. So this gives you loads of great detail into that. We can look at the last couple of months spend to see how much that's cost us. And it's also going to give us an estimate into the next month. So you can really get a handle on this and make sure that there isn't going to be any kind of unexpected expenditure and things don't get sort of carried away. Now that we've configured everything on the Veeam side and we've also had a good look around the iLand console, what we're going to do now is actually perform a partial failover of one of the virtual machines. So I've logged in here to the ESXi host, and we can see under virtual machines that our 3 VMs here are running include Windows 01, which is what we're going to use as a demonstration. And then under the Cloud console, on the left hand side here under Virtual Applications, Cloud Connect 1, we can see the replicas here. We can see everything that's been assigned to them, and we can see, most importantly, that they're currently all powered off. So now we're going to go back to the Veeam console, have a look under replicas, select the Windows machine that we're going to use for a test, right click, and then simply click Failover Now. So we're going to restore to restore point that I did this morning, but you do also have the option, if you wanted to go back further in time. Perhaps if you had some sort of malware attack and you needed to try and restore, but from before that took hold, then you can do that. Click Next, and we'll give it a reason. So we'll just do a test failover. And then that will bring the replica online in iLand's Cloud console. And we'll just give this a second, and then we'll be able to see the Windows replica and the network extension appliance, the NEA, both come on. We'll have access to be able to look at the virtual machine. Okay, so the failover is complete, and we can see here in the Veeam console that the duration of that was just over 3 minutes. So it's processed the partial failover, it's selected the appliance, and it's also powered on the NEA or network extension appliance. And if we go back into the iLand console, we can see here as well that our Windows replica and the NEA are now powered on. So just as a basic test, we can have a look at this replica of the virtual machine. We can see that it's running, we can see some basic details about that IP address and that sort of thing. And under the Actions menu here, we see a lot of similar stuff that you would in VMware, and we can of course open up a console. So just for basic testing, we can now perform some operations on this virtual machine, make sure applications run, that sort of stuff. But this is currently working in an isolated environment, so you can make changes here without affecting the production workload. And also, if we look here on our ESXi server, then we can see that our production version of this virtual machine is still running. But as a more advanced test, what we can actually do is come back into this virtual machine, and we'll start off a ping. So we can see currently it's not connected to the network and the request is timing out. So as a more advanced test, what we can actually do is simulate the failover, simulate the failure of the virtual machine on the site, and we'll just shut this one down. So with the source machine now shut down, we'll be able to see a constant ping from the replica back to the Linux virtual machine on the production site. And essentially what's happening there is the NEA appliance is connecting the two environments such that the layer 2 connectivity is completely functional. So in an actual failover scenario, this could be hugely valuable as it allows healthy source guests to speak with a target site in a completely seamless manner without the need to re-IP. Now that we've finished our testing, we can go back into the Veeam console, have a look under the active replicas, right click this one and then do undo failover. Go back into our ESXi and then we'll start that production VM back up again. And the operation to undo that failover is completed. And back in the iLand Cloud console, we can now see that both the replica and also the NEA are now back in a powered off state. Now we've completed the partial failover, we're going to take a look at doing a full site recovery. So in the iLand console, this time we're going to look under the continuity tab, and we can see here the recovery group that we created earlier on in Veeam. Click into that one, we can see both our Linux virtual machines. And then to failover is as simple as clicking the failover button here and then selecting the failover type. Now, if we select test, that's actually a fully automated process where it will start the virtual machines up, it will test that VMware tools are all installed properly and working, do a bit of basic pin connectivity to make sure the networking is correct, and then it will shut those replicas down, which is great for doing your testing, but to show you a little bit in a bit more detail, we're going to use the live failover type, and then we've got the option again to either use the latest replica or to choose from a previous date. So we'll use the latest replica, the one that I kicked off this morning. Click submit, and then again this will just take a couple of minutes, and then we'll be able to see these two replica Linux machines up and running in the iLand Secure Cloud. Now the failover is completed, and again it just took a couple of minutes to do that, and we can see here nice big status. And if we look under virtual machines, we can see now these two Linux replicas are powered on. And again we can come in here, look at the virtual machine details, and we can open up a VM console, and you can log in, do whatever it is you need to do to test to make sure these virtual machines are working in that DR environment. And then when you're done, we'll come back to that continuity tab, back into the recovery group, and we've got two options then. So we can click undo failover, which in a testing environment is what you would do, and that would undo any of the changes that you've made whilst you've been doing the testing and put the environment back to how it was before we started that test failover. The other option you've got is to commit failover, and that's what you would click if you were actually experiencing a live outage, and then that would commit the snapshots that you've been working on into production. And by clicking that button, it actually puts you in touch with the iLand support team, who will then guide you through the process of committing those virtual machines into production. So for this testing, we'll do undo failover, and then we'll reverse those changes that we made. Okay, so that just took a couple of minutes, and now we can see that that's back to a status of ready, so we could perform another test failover again. And if we look at our virtual machines in the cloud console, that again they're all powered off. So everything's back to how it was, and everything's still running in our live environment in VMware. Okay, so that's a demonstration. If you'd like to get more hands-on, then we can set you up with access to that lab where you can have a go yourself at doing everything we've been through. Or if you'd like to see it in action then in your own environment, then we can get you a 30-day fully featured trial as well. If you'd like to know more about the cost and billing, then reach out to your account manager, and we can set up a quick call where we can discuss your requirements, run a quick sizing exercise against your environment, and then we can discuss pricing options. So thanks for listening. Check out all the other videos from my colleagues and the guest speakers, and enjoy Define tomorrow.